Good morning everybody, this is Victoria. Welcome back to another episode of Art Tutorials. So today what we're actually going to talk about is soft edges and hard edges and how we're actually going to use these tips and advice to actually help us improve our realistic drawing, because they play a very important role in realistic drawing. So basically I'm going to kind of give you guys tips and advice on things to keep an eye out and things to kind of look for while you're drawing a picture, whether if it's a portrait or an animal or anything that you're drawing from a picture reference, in order to make it look a lot more realistic. So basically you want to make sure that you see the subtle difference between a soft edge and a hard edge, and then also being able to notice when does the soft edge start and end, and where does the hard edge start and end. So there are things to kind of keep in mind, and I will show you guys a few examples on how to do that in this video. So if you guys are ready, let's get started. Okay, so basically let's start with some picture references to kind of show you the difference between soft and hard edge. So let's go ahead and go into this folder, and then we're gonna kind of bring up this first picture that we have. So we have this in full color, so you can either kind of analyze it in full color, or you can also turn it into black and white. So if you were to actually draw this with pencil or charcoal, and you're actually trying to draw a realistic drawing with graphite and pencil, so you would want to make sure that you change your picture into black and white. So once you have that, basically what happens here is that first thing we want to do here is that you definitely have the whole drawing construction drawn, and then when you're filling in, you want to fill in sections. So basically what would happen here is that, for example, usually we have a tendency to fill in top left and then go right and then top to bottom. So left to right, top to bottom. And then here is a very good example for a soft edge. So you kind of see here, so there's this part over here. So this area is considered a soft edge, as you can see where my mouse is moving. So that one you want to make sure that you kind of keep it very subtle, and then let's have a comparison between this one and a hard edge. So a hard edge over here, I would actually mention this part of the eye, because as you can see the edge is like really sharp and really visible, so you want to make sure that that one is actually made with a hard edge. And then same thing for this nose piercing over here, and then also some of the lines for the lips over here. So this is considered a hard edge, and then the lips is actually a very great example just to kind of show you hard edge compared to soft edge, where they're kind of right beside each other. So this part of the top of the upper lip, now this area, that's considered soft edge. So when you're actually drawing this, you want to make sure that you have a very soft edge over here, and then not having too much of a border. The border that's created over here is using light and dark tones. So this is a very good example. So there's soft edges and hard edges everywhere. So you can actually see there is lots of soft edges over here, and then the reason why that is that it's getting further away from us. So naturally our eyes tend to focus less on the places that we don't tend to look or stare at. So we can only focus on a certain areas over here, which is basically the face, and then some part of the shoulders, because this is somewhat almost on the same surface, so we can kind of somewhat relate. Definitely there'll be different levels of clearness, so you want to make sure that you have main focus, and then you have something that's a secondary focus, and then something that's completely blurred out and very soft. So this is where the realistic feeling comes from is that you're actually adding in the soft edges and the hard edges and also adding them at the correct place. So let's go ahead and move on to our next picture over here. Let's see who's next. So this is the colored version. Okay, so we got some ducks here, some beautiful ducks. So basically what we're going to do with this one, we're also going to change it to black and white because it looks very very colorful, very pretty though, but we want to make sure that we kind of concentrate on sharp edges and soft edges. And what we're going to do here is, oh whoops, where's the black and white for this one? Oh no, black and white, where's the birdie? Ah, there's no black and white for this one. Okay, well, we'll save that one for color. Okay, so like there's no black and white for this one, so let's go ahead and do color. So basically, what's going to happen here is that it's going to be the same thing. So when you're actually coloring this in or filling this in, what happens is that you kind of see that we have quite a bit of hard edges and also quite a bit of soft edges. So for example, the duck itself is a very sharp edge, so that itself you kind of see just a lot of sharp edge over here, a lot of sharp edge over here. But what happens is that the water area is a good example for softer edges. So you kind of see where the subtle softness and changes in here until you kind of see this really hard edge because it's the ripple of the water, because the ducks are alive, they're swimming in the lake, they can move, so that's what kind of replicates that. So this is another good example for soft edges and hard edges, and then you can actually find this in a lot of different examples. Okay, now moving on to the next picture. So here we have this cat. So this is the colored version, and then we also have the black and white version. So this one is also very obvious, where we kind of see the focus is mostly on the face over here, and then everything else in the background gets really diffused, very blurred out, and less in focus. So here you want to make sure that you have a lot of the sharper and harder lines around the eyes over here, so you can see that. So that's a very hard line over here, and then also the inside of the eye. But at the same time, as you can see, this eye is a lot more focused than this eye. So you can see where this part is kind of starting to blur out a little bit, and then there's also different levels of clearness. So this is definitely the clearest, and then you kind of tone it down a little bit and then make it slightly bit blurry. But then again, this part isn't as blurry as, for example, this fur over here. This is like the blurriest of them all, other than the background, because you kind of see background. So this is very soft soft edges, and then the ears over here is also soft edges. This ear is kind of getting a little bit more clearer, but not as clear as this part. So this part kind of tends to guide our eyes to kind of focus on whatever is clear, because we don't spend as much time on places that are like fuzzy. We kind of glance over, it's like, okay, we kind of know that that's the back of the cat, and that's all we need to know. But like if there's more detail on those, we tend to stay a little bit longer and actually look and observe. Okay, so that's this example, and then we have this portrait over here, which is another great example as well. So as you can see, when we kind of zoom this in, this portrait has a lot of things in focus. So if you kind of zoom in, this is a very high quality photograph of this beautiful lady, and as you can see, there's a lot of sharp edges around the eyes, iris, and anything that has like really strong contrast. So what I mean by like strong contrast, that you see this black against this really bright white. So these are the things that you want to kind of keep an eye out for. And then for soft edges, for example, let's take the nose for an example. So here, as you can see, there is some texture and all this stuff, but we're not going to worry too much about that. We're going to look at the actual soft edges of the shadows on the nose, because the nose does not really have any sharp edges. Well, just generally the human face does not have any sharp edges on the skin areas, or mostly, because everything is somewhat connected with each other. So this part kind of goes in here, and then it gets darker because this kind of dips in a little bit more, so it kind of creates a crevice and a space for shadow to stay, and then it kind of comes back up again and it kind of blends out. So same thing with this area too. And then again with the lips again. So this part you kind of see a lot of the sharper edges over here, but around the lips over here, you see where this is where the soft edge starts and then kind of ends, and then we kind of have a slightly bit harder edge before it disappears again over here. So that's another tip for you guys, being able to see where does the soft edge start and end, and also being able to see where the hard edge starts and end is very important, because when you're actually starting to draw more realistic stuff, they start and stop very freely, and also sometimes very suddenly. So basically you would start seeing hard edges and the next thing you know, oh, it went soft, and then sometimes it would stay soft forever. So you kind of see this shadow area, the whole surrounding here is soft. Definitely you'll have some places that seem harder than the other side though, but mostly it's because of the darker tone. So here it's spreading out a little bit more, so it seems a lot more gentle, a lot more softer, and a lot more gradual than this part because the contrast. So this part is a little bit darker and a lot darker compared to the tone around it. Okay, and then we have this colored version, and then now we have this one. And then we have two more examples here. So for this eye is the same thing. So the reason why I picked this picture reference is that basically what happens is that the eye acts as a very good sharp edge, and mostly the eyelashes, and then around the eye, like even this one would be considered a medium edge. It's not too hard, not too soft, but this pupil area and then also the highlight, those are the super hard edges, and then also the eyelashes. So as you can see, you can actually point out the different places of where you would need to create a softer edge. For example, this part has a very soft edge, and then where you would need to create a harder edge, which is basically the pupil. And then definitely if you see it as a bigger picture, this shadow area is a very soft edge as well, because you actually see where the dark tones gets lighter and lighter and suddenly kind of starts disappearing into the light. And then last but not least, we're gonna have something that's a little bit more abstract. So this is what it looks like when it's in full color. And here's our black and white version. So this one is actually a really good example as well, because since this subject or this object is a very glossy and reflective, so when you're doing more reflective surfaces and textures, they tend to have quite a bit of the hard edges. So you kind of see where this highlight is, so this is very hard edges, so you want to make sure that you have that, but at the same time it would be hard, but it also would soften midway. So you want to keep an eye out of where does it harden the edge and then where does it soften the edge. So this part over here, this is a very soft edge, if you kind of see here. So this is very soft over here. And then if we want to go up a little more, so this part, it's starting to get a lot harder, and then as you can see, the contrast is very, very drastic. So this part is a very hard edge over here, and then you would have very soft edges over here, and then you would move up, but this is all very, very soft edges, so you want to make sure that you kind of, and this is even softer edges, so you kind of see the different degrees of soft edge, and then later you kind of see, okay, it's getting harder and harder, this is quite hard of an edge, and then it gets softer here because it's getting brighter and lighter, and yeah. And then these are the things that you want to kind of keep an eye out for. And then if you do see that, then you actually would want to kind of apply that to your drawings, your paintings, or any type of realistic drawing and painting that you're creating. Okay, so basically just a little short summary of what we learned today in this video. So basically you want to keep in mind that you want to be observant of what is a soft edge and a hard edge. And the next thing is basically being able to spot it in our picture reference. And then once you have that, the next thing that you want to kind of keep an eye out is while you're drawing or filling in the shading and all that stuff, you want to make sure that you're able to notice when the soft edge starts and ends, and also when does the hard edge starts and ends, and then also noticing the subtle differences, and also being able to see the shape and how far the soft edge spread, or how sharp and how big or small the hard edges are. It will take you guys a little bit while to kind of get used to it, because you have to kind of train your eyes to kind of learn to see it and be sensitive enough to actually see the difference between how hard and how soft the edges. But eventually, as you draw more, you'll get better and better on it. So the key idea is to keep consistent and also paying attention to it while you're drawing. And so make sure that you are concentrated on certain things while you're practicing, so then you can actually put in the new things that you learned. Okay, and that is it for today. I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and I hope this would be helpful for you when you're drawing more realistic drawings, or when you're creating more and painting more realistic paintings as well, because it actually applies to both. But yeah, okay, thank you again so much. Feel free to press the subscribe button, because there's going to be more art tutorials and also tips and advice and other process videos coming out soon. So make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest update, and also please press the like button. That'll be super awesome and super helpful. It would help this art channel grow. And then also feel free to ask questions. I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. So please leave a comment below. Feel free to ask if you had any questions about this video, or about other future questions that I could probably make a brand new video out of. Okay, but that's pretty much it. There's also more on my Patreon, so feel free to check that out too. But other than that, that's it for today. So wishing you guys a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend, and I shall see you guys next week. Until then, have fun, stay creative, and practice the new things you learned. Awesome. Okay, see you guys. Bye.